The main results, I can be very short. When we look at phase 1, we don't see any shifts happening. And that's according to our hypothesis. Because if you just drop information in the practice, people will just kind of ignore it. And that indeed happened. Actually, we saw a slight increase in high carbon products in the first phase. So that was not what so we're not surprised by that. We were more surprised by the disappointing shifts in phase 2, because we went all the way, organizing many different kind of interventions in a kind of integrated total package, and still we had very, very minor shifts in the, let's say, buying behavior of the participants. The overall shifts were about 3% in the direction of a little bit low carbon lunches. They were significant, but it was the least possible kind of trend that we could find, which only one exception to the rule. We offered to them tap water and mineral water from the bottle. We put it in a can so people could choose. They were both for free. And here in the water, you could see in phase 2 that there is a major shift towards the use of the low carbon water, let's say the tap water. I think for reasons of time, I skipped this data because this is how we constructed it. It is the shifts in, let's say, low carbon lunches happening over time, but let's just assume that this experiment was disappointing in terms of the shifts in behavior that occurred. This is the tap water and the mineral water, and you can see there is, especially in phase 2, it is the tap water is higher, and this is a significant shift. But still, we were wondering why people did not take up our suggestions more eagerly and more frequently and more thoroughly. So in the focus groups, we asked why not? And they were kind of striking results for me, because I participated in the process, and I'm an environmentalist. I'm an environmental sociologist, I must say. And I was a little bit disappointed because there are high educated people there. They are staff members of the university. There are regular visitors from the university, and they all go to that restaurant. So it's not a matter of attitude. Their attitude is perfectly pro-environment. But what they do is defending their practice against any interventions they think is not relevant. So they are kind of sticking to their routines. They say, well, this lunch, it's our own time. It's very little time, and we should be careful how we spend it. We are used to doing it in a certain way, and we were happy with it. And now you have to have good reasons for us to start changing our behavior, to start changing this practice. And especially things that they don't like were things that run counter to the dynamics of the practice themselves. We didn't expect that the video, which we were very proud of because it was an artistic video, you will find it in the internet, I will give you the YouTube address, but people didn't even look at it. And why? Because it was at the entry of the restaurant, and they said 2 minutes, spend 2 minutes watching a video, while I have to go and to collect all my stuff and go to the cash point. It is 2 minutes lost. So that's what they said, actually. And the same for the pillar. When we invite them to go to the pillar to check, to monitor the CO2 scores, they said, well, you know, why should we? It takes precious time because we have to go and queue for the cash point. And so after that, it's okay if you come as information, but not before the cash point. So they just kind of rejected the video and the CO2 pillar as an intervention in the practice that would work for them because it didn't fit into this time-space dynamics of the practice. I think that's what we can learn from it. What they did appreciate were the things that do fit. And one of the things that fitted was the menu suggestions, because they were on the table where they have dinner, lunch together, and they are spending their time there anyhow. So if on the table there is a kind of positive suggestion to start discussing, let's say, food and climate change issues, then it should be on the menus And menus were very highly appreciated. They said, well, we have been here several times that it resulted in a kind of discussion that really was kind of energizing. In terms of Collins, you get emotional energy from sitting together, discussing a carefully designed intervention in terms of a different menu. So that's what they liked, because they fit the dynamics of the practice. My conclusion, final slide. What we learn from practice-based approach to sustainable consumption is that information in itself, just dropped into the practice, will not work. It sounds like a very easy conclusion, but I think it's a major one. Especially if you go and talk to industries, to the Tesco's and to the Unilevers and so on. So I think that's something you should be aware of. Practice-based approach can just show that even if you make additional interventions, not just the information in itself, but that you organize all kind of changes around the consumer in the practices, even then you have to be very much aware of the dynamics of practice as more or less hampering easy change. So people at first defend the practice. They don't see, they even ignore information or other suggestions if they don't think they fit into the dynamics of practice. So what we learned from this approach, both in the case study and in the theory, is that by studying the dynamics of the practice itself, it can help you as a policymaker to design new instruments, new policies for interventions in practices. And interventions, I mean, it can be interventions organized by NGOs, by consumer groups. It can be organized by systems of provision agents, providers. No matter how, but they run, they come when when we discuss this process of taking up these innovations, you really have to be aware how robust most everyday life practices are. When you talk about mobilities or about food or about housing, people are really kind of into the routines they are used to, and they cherish these routines and they defend it against innovation. That is maybe the warning that I have for policymakers, but at the same time it's a challenge to come up with new instruments next to or beyond just information campaigns or labels or isolated instruments. You need to do more than that. And that's my suggestion to start working on for the future. Thank you.